Okay, so here's a thought experiment. Somebody walks into this room, points at that rack and says, you get to keep five apps, 5 services, that's it. Everything else gets nuked. What survives? I run 20 plus LXCs and a few VMs, and it's not the biggest Homelab on YouTube, and it's definitely not the smallest, but I'm happy with it. So this isn't a help me cut down video. Nothing is getting deleted. This is a what do I actually value video, and honestly, the answer surprised me a little bit. But I will warn you right now, some of you may be frustrated about what made the list, frustrated about what got left off, and mad about one particular thing that has the entire self-hosting community in a bad mood this month, and I promise we'll get there. Now, before we start, we've got one rule here, because rules are what make the comments fun. We're counting apps and services. We're not counting the foundation under them. So Proxmox doesn't count, the network doesn't count, power doesn't count. I'm picking the things that run on top of all of that. So hold that rule in your head, because at the end of this video, I'm going to ask you to break it on purpose, and I'm going to ask you to yell at me about it. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the 5 that made the cut. Okay, so here's number 1, and this one was instant without even a thought. It's AdGuard Home. It's the DNS-based ad blocking solution. And here's why it's not even a debate for me. This is the one service in my Homelab that every single device in the house benefits from without anyone having to do anything. My wife doesn't have to install an extension. My phone doesn't even know it exists. It sits at the DNS layer and quietly makes the entire internet less hostile for everyone under this roof. Ads are gone, trackers are gone, and a big chunk of junk just does not load. It's the every device, zero effort part that made it earn the number 1 slot. Now, most of my services help me, but this one helps the entire network without even thinking about it, which I think is kind of rare. And it's the kind of thing that you only notice when it's gone, which if you've ever had a DNS resolver fail, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Number 2 is VaultWarden. This is, of course, the self-hosted Bitwarden compatible password manager. And this one is less about the Homelab and more about my actual daily life. My wife and I use this every single day. And if you've ever tried to share passwords with another human being using text messages, or God help you, a notebook, you understand why this is non-negotiable. And here's the part that makes it survive the cut. This is one service where the consequences of losing it are not mild inconvenience. They are, I am locked out of my entire online existence. A media server might go down and ruin your movie night, but a password manager is going to ruin your week. The stakes are just higher, so it stays for me. And number 3 is the one I mentioned earlier that might have you mad, and it's Plex. It's my media server. And I can already hear some of you saying, David, Plex right now, are you serious? Yeah, I am. So let's talk about it for a minute. For anyone who's been living under a rock for the past month, Plex announced their lifetime pass is going from $250 to $750 starting July 1st of this year. That's a $500 jump. And the part that really stings is the math over time, because that lifetime pass was $120 in March of 2025. So in about 16 months, the price went from $120 to $250 to $750, and people are furious, and I get it. That is a steep climb. Now, here's where I'm going to be an unpopular voice for just a second. Like, I understand why people are upset, but I also understand why Plex did it. Existing lifetime holders, and I want to be clear about this, they don't lose anything. Nothing changes for current pass holders, and the monthly and yearly plans are not changing either. They're currently staying at $7 a month and $70 a year. So what Plex said, in their own words, is that they had even considered killing the lifetime option entirely because recurring subscriptions are what fund ongoing development. They didn't kill it. They priced it where they want it to be a hard decision. Now, I wouldn't call this a we hate our users move. This is a we would rather have you on a recurring plan move. It's a recurring revenue play dressed up as a one-time fee that they made deliberately painful. Now, you can think that it's greedy, and that's a totally fair position, but it's not necessarily chaotic or random. It's a company nudging its customer base towards predictable monthly income. And honestly, the lifetime tier was almost a weird fit for software that costs money to maintain forever. So I hear you ask, why does it stay on my list even through all of that? And the answer is because it does the job and it does it well. And the media library that I've already built isn't something that I want to rebuild on a whim. Could Jellyfin take this slot? Let me know in the comments, because I have a feeling some of you are already typing the word jellyfin in all caps down there. Number 4 is Obsidian with self-hosted sync. This is my brain. This is where scripts get written, where video ideas live, where the Homelab documentation that saves me actually sits in plain markdown files with no proprietary lock-in, and it's synced across all of my devices on infrastructure that I control instead of being on someone else's cloud. And the reason this beats out over a dozen other tools that I have is the lock-in test. If every other service on this list vanished, my notes would still be readable in markdown files on a disk, and there's something deeply reassuring about that. The thing that holds some of my most important information is also the least likely thing to ever trap me, and that definitely earns it a spot. Now, number 5, and this is the one that's specific to me and what I do, is Postiz. It's my self-hosted social media automation platform. For this YouTube channel, this is the difference between social media as a part-time job and social media basically runs itself. It schedules and distributes posts across platforms from infrastructure that I own, which means I'm not feeding a third-party scheduler my accounts and my data. Now, obviously, this is the most DB Tech specific pick on this list. If you're not creating content, this probably is not your number 5, but that's kind of the point of this exercise. Your 5 should look like your life. Mine has an online presence attached to it, so a tool like that protects my time and keeps me consistent definitely makes the cut. Now, your 5th slot might be Home Assistant or a game server or something that I've never heard of. So let me know in the comment section, because I'm genuinely curious what the weird personal number 5 is for you. Okay, so that's my 5. AdGuard, VaultWarden, Plex, Obsidian, and Postiz. Except I have a bit of a confession here, and this is the part I've been wrestling with the whole time I was planning this video. What about remote access? Because here's the problem. Part of the value of the things that I listed depends on the ability to reach them when I'm not at home. And the thing that makes all of that work, for me at least, is Cloudflare Tunnels. It itself is a service, it runs and I maintain it, and it can absolutely break and ruin my day. So does remote access count as one of my 5, or is it a freebie? And I genuinely cannot decide. So I'm going to lay out both sides of this, and then I'm going to throw it over to you. Okay, so Camp 1 says this is basically plumbing, right? The same category as Proxmox or the network. It doesn't produce anything on its own. It only makes other things reachable. And by that logic, it is foundation, not an app. And counting it would be cheating, I think, the same way that counting networking would be cheating. And Camp 2 says if it runs, if it can go down, and if you would absolutely notice it missing, then it earns a slot, full stop. And these folks actually have a great point. Nobody blinks when somebody calls a VPN an app. Tailscale, WireGuard, a Cloudflare tunnel, that's the exact same category. So why does a remote access get waved off as free when a VPN gets to be a real pick? And here's the trap that I walked right into. Look back at my number 1. AdGuard Home is also infrastructure. It's also plumbing that serves the entire network, but I gave it a slot without blinking. So if AdGuard gets to be an app, by what rule does remote access not? I'm honestly not sure, and I wish I had a clean answer. So again, I'm going to ask you guys what your thoughts are on that. So here's the real question for the video, and the one I want flooding the comments. Is remote access one of your 5, or is it a freebie? And if it is a freebie, explain to me why AdGuard isn't, because I will be reading the comments. Now, before we go, I want to acknowledge a couple of things, because the things that didn't make this list might say more than the things that actually did. We've got no backup solution, which I'm sure some of you find borderline irresponsible, and you might be right. And a big one, no Home Assistant. And I know I've poured a ton of time and effort into Home Assistant, and I love it. But here's my reasoning, and you're more than welcome to disagree. I can still turn my lights on and off with a switch on the wall or the app that came with the hardware. And believe me, I would miss the automations a lot, but my ability to be happy in my own home doesn't actually depend on them. That is a luxury layer, not a survival layer. So in a pick 5 world, it loses to a password manager, and that's just the brutal math of this exercise for me. So that's the result of the experiment for me. AdGuard, VaultWarden, Plex, Obsidian, and Postiz, with a giant asterisk hanging over remote access. Now, there are 3 things that I want from you in the comments. 1 is, what is your number 5? The personal weird one that only makes sense for your life. Number 2 is, settle the remote access debate for me. Is it an app or is it a freebie? And I want you to defend your answer. And number 3 is, I want you to tell me what you can't believe that I left off. And yes, Home Assistant counts, I already know. So guys, that's going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me here today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.